know it's just a matter of time till I give in. I'm just hoping that gravity. Oh, I know it's just a matter of time till I give in. I'm just hoping that gravity pulls us in and holds.
Oh, I can't wait to break this thing down. It is a ton of fun. It sounds amazing. And I just love the journey that we went on to get here. And I can't wait to unpack that with you in this video. Before we dive right in, I want to remind you that I dropped a completely free music production course, not like an intro course, like the full on thing, 100% pay what you want. And I dare you to pay $0 because my goal is to put it into as many hands as possible and to put no friction between the way that I approach music and how I create, and allow others to be part of that process and to take it for themselves and run. So that is down below. Let's get into it. First thing is, this is Imperial High by Hollis Long. Incredible song, incredible artist. She came out from New York to a studio in Vancouver where we recorded all this stuff together, and I was the one who tuned all of it kind of from the ground up. But of course, she's banging. She's so good. And of course, the tuning was like super minimal. And I know I'm about to show you some things and people are going to say, oh, that's so much. But trust me, Hollis sounds incredible without any processing. This is a decision that when we talk about references and kind of things that they want to sit in the vein of, there is a certain amount of just inhuman perfection that's expected with it. And I know going through this, people are going to say, that's too much tuning, that's too little. But keep in mind that whenever I'm working with an artist, we're talking very much in depth about the references and the kind of things that they like out of them to make sure that when I go in afterwards and we agree that it sounds how we both want it to, I haven't overdone or undercooked anything and it's exactly how they want. So if you don't like the idea of the retune at 26, then probably just leave. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Because the retune is at 26, baby, and 98% of this song, 98% of the tightness is Hollis, and the last 2% is this helping it along the way. Take a listen to her before any tuning.
Till I give in, I'm just hoping that gravity pulls.
Already sounds really good. So even though I have two plugins up here, the EFX is just set to key. I'm running with the retune speed of 26, just grabbing very lightly.
Till I give in, I'm just hoping that gravity.
And again, she's really on, so it's just not doing as much, despite it being kind of a higher, people might say it's a higher retune. I mean, I think it's still quite low for pop music, kind of like Holly Humberstone universe. And then on the tuning end, you can already see
Till I give in, I'm
not even doing stuff for parts of phrases here. You can see I'm doing very little manual tuning work kind of across the grid, because the green right is where I did some changes and the red is where I left it alone. So very minimal, very experienced singer. Hollis has done so many dope things with her voice, and you can see that in how little I had to do with manual touches to it. Next thing up, with especially female vocals, I'm using the U47 replica, so it's a very warm, thick microphone. We needed to kind of lighten things up a little bit. So I used some shelving and some wide bells to before it.
Till I give in, I'm just hoping that gravity pulls us.
Just kind of leaving open a little bit of space. At points, obviously, it's, we're totally uncompressed. It's going to have a couple of characteristics to it just because of that. But that leads us right into our compressors next. So I like the RVox plus the LA2A combo because it's a very kind of good catch-all type compression combo. Especially works great when somebody's really good with their own body dynamics. I find I have to do a bit more. Maybe I would do this with a third compressor if I needed to catch something kind of errant going on. But she's pretty good at shaping her sound that comes out. So I only need two compressors. You probably might need three to pull off the same thing of doing 3 to 60B each. But here's what those compressors are doing now.
Till I give in, I'm just hoping that gravity pulls.
And so we're getting everything pretty glued in here, and then just adding a little bit of mid-range kind of focus saturation, which is what this New York module seems to be really dang good at.
You and I.
Without.
You and I.
Does a really good job kind of bringing this like huskiness chunk forward and smoothing out some stuff in the high end that feels really pleasant to me. So now at this point, we've got a good compression shape. We've got kind of a good macro shaping of it. So I'm going to start to get a little more creative with the choices I'm making and pulling out some just more saturation to provide more like richness and character that I'm looking for here.
You and I.
Without.
You and I.
You can hear how much sparkle comes out from that.
You and I.
Yeah. All right. And then let me go try to find an SE moment, something. As I typically do partway down the line, I start to find the sibilance in just a certain area is a little bit overbearing. So I'm going to go ahead and just address that as early on as I can.
Starting to believe in you.
Before.
Starting to believe in you.
And my favorite like hack for finding this sibilance is I'll just go into an EQ. And I'll look for that peak.
Starting to believe in you.
It's right at 9900. And then I'm going to go ahead and set my frequency here to match that. And it's a little off, but I mean, it's pretty much in the ballpark. So I don't know, I'm going to show you. So we've shaped the vocal, compressed it. We've got 2 saturators going. We've de-essed. Now we're just doing kind of what I call the finishing touches phase of a vocal here. And you're going to find a lot of similarities between this and Jack Rourke's vocal because these are kind of a lot of the similar tools, but it's the difference in really what I'm doing with the tools that I want to emphasize more than like, oh, buy these plugins. There's a reason, and I'm using them in different ways every single time. Like you'll notice the air is not on here for Hollis because it was in the Jack song. So yes, use these tools. They're great tools. I love them, but don't blindly grab it because it's what I'm grabbing. I hope you can kind of take a little bit more discernment past that for yourself. So again, I do love the MV2 because of how it does the last kind of finessing of dynamics within a song.
Thinking that you'll run just cause it's what I'm used to. Well, I can't live with one foot on the brake.
Now she's really, really in the pocket there. All right, so check this out. Here it is before.
It's a bad habit thinking that you'll run.
After.
A bad habit thinking that you'll run.
Let me compensate for volume.
A bad habit thinking that you'll run.
Before.
A bad habit thinking that you'll run.
Do you notice how everything's kind of like pushing everything but the lowest portion forward? It's really a lot of the focus of a lot of the processing going on here because that seems to be the battle. There never seems to be a lack of kind of thickness, richness, or even like tubbiness coming out of a vocal. So I'm actively trying to work against that the whole time and slowly do it, as opposed to doing something like if I went here.
A bad habit thinking that you'll run.
It's much easier to get something very unnatural feeling as I'm just pushing an EQ really, really far, especially on a vocal. So I try to avoid doing that. And I'll instead go to more kind of coloration tools like excitement saturation to get me the richness I'm looking for in other areas that kind of by default, by the relationship of the volumes of different frequency ranges, will bring down that tubbiness by bringing up other areas. So I really just try to avoid being super extreme with the EQ, and I'm going to go for excitement saturation to pull out what I want, as opposed to doing a 14 dB cut on a vocal, which is very hard to make sound natural. And then I wanted to do some final like top end shaping with her voice because it still wasn't quite sitting how I was hoping it would.
A bad habit thinking that you'll run just cause it's what I'm used to.
Before.
A bad habit thinking that you'll run.
After.
A bad habit thinking that you'll run.
It's just right there in place now. Taken that little bit of dynamic, really brought it down, and that feels really, really nice. Now, all that's leading up to a vocal bus where it's just a lot of different little final touches on top of the vocal to kind of bring it together. You're going to find a final compressor on a lot of my stuff I do because after all of it, then I always kind of find like, oh, just a little bit more glue to push it right into place, and it ends up being usually the solution.
A bad habit thinking. A bad habit thinking that.
And you're going to notice that it doesn't do much here except for in the chorus. So still, even with all of this, we're only compressing maybe 12 to 15 dB, which doesn't sound like much, but across the whole song is pretty conservative.
You and I.
You can see how little it's pinging right there.
You remind me what it's like to make it so easy to love you, easy to wanna stay real high when it's you and I.
And funny enough, as I even look at this compressor, I'm like, oh, I bet I wouldn't know if I turned that off. And sometimes that happens, but you know what? We're gonna rock with it. And as I'm looking at this, what I guess is a de-esser that's right here, I think this is a great like learning moment where this was definitely on. I bypassed it at the start. This EQ was never on in the final mix, but this de-esser was on, and it ain't doing a dang thing.
Big love, I'm all in, babe. Let's get.
Like, it's just not doing anything.
Oh, I know it's just a matter of time till
it's not even hitting those moments. So it's just a moment that like, hey, I don't really care, even though something is off. I'm just gonna look at it and say, hey, sometimes a plugin's not doing anything, just like the compressor, we're getting to the end result. So even though that was on, did not affect what we were trying to do. So we're gonna move on and have a good day. Now, as you already probably know, my goodness, we are all about Sooth 2 as our final dynamics insurance.
You and I.
You can see how little is happening. Pay attention to how little is happening.
You and I. You and I. It's an imperial eye when it's you.
Very, very, very subtle amount of stuff going on here. Again, just insurance for kind of different pokes or resonances, not something that's super, super apparent. And then I'll give it a last minute micro sparkle. That is 1 dB at 10K. Let's see if we can pick it out here without.
Till I give it, I'm just hoping that.
With.
Till I give it, I'm just hoping that gravity.
It's subtle. It's subtle. It's subtle, baby. And of course, just the tiniest bit of micro shift, because at least the way that I approach things, we larger than life. We always big, we thick, we booming, we coming in here with a bang.
Till I give it, I'm just hoping that
Without.
Till I give it, I'm just hoping that gravity pulls.
Just almost invisible, but just a little bit of pull. Just makes her feel a little bigger. And we went really, really simple with effects for this song. So we have a nice kind of modern plate sound, but you can see, as opposed to like the Jack work mix that was quite bright, this is such a warm, kind of a crunchy type of song that I went ahead, and you can see how hard I've really filtered it to keep it kind of closed in the back. Very calm, chill, round water.
Famed for pushing worth on love, I've been careful falling into you.
Just gonna pull that up too so you can really hear it.
Famed for pushing worth on love, I've been careful falling into you.
Right, but it's so lush, it's so beautiful, and just a little bit of space so she's not in a total void, but in context, she really sounds kind of very intimate and in your face. So no delay, nothing crazy, just a badass performance with a little bit of reverb in the back that then pops up later on down the song.
Can't live with one foot on the brake. Oh,
But outside of that reverb boost, there are no real other delays. There's nothing else crazy going on with the vocal. It's just automation. And I think this is a really important moment where I want to come out and say, hey, depending on the stuff you're doing, obviously I do a ton of crazy stuff, but it's also being appropriate to know when does it make sense to just stop and to just have the performance be the magic and the center of it. Certain genres call for it, certain moments, certain energies, certain stories call for it. And it's up to us to decide how we want to convey that, and should we go crazy with it, or is it this naked, beautiful story? And all of these tools are just things to help show the story in the most beautiful light possible, and let the lyric and the story and the performance just in its purest essence be the star. And those are the kinds of things that go into a vocal like this, kind of beyond the software, beyond the screen and everything in that sense. It's the emotional headspace and the kind of convincingness with which you can sell me this story and sell me this new universe that you've taken me to. That's going to be so like disgustingly massively helpful. Much more so than like putting a little, delay throw every time there's like a gap. That stuff's really cool, makes sense, but just something like this, I would completely avoid it. Again, that's Imperial High by Hollis Long, incredible artist. Please go listen to the work that we put into this track. I promise you, it's like the smoothest banger in the world. It's crazy. And don't forget my music production course, how you can approach creating songs from the ground up for absolutely free. Pay $0. I truly dare you, is down in the description as well. So I hope you enjoy all of that. I'll see you in the next video. And remember, kindness wins, and you're just one song away.